because this is the first race of the season for the Ford Modified Series, which makes its debut with the British Racing and Sports Car Club. We welcome them on board. We welcome everyone at home watching along for this race on the live stream as well. And what a treat we have for you now with this enormous grid of cars, 36 of them hopefully, if we can get Jamie Goff on the back of the grid, which it looks like we might do. And great variety as well. It is essentially a one-make championship, but of course it's there are lots of different types of Ford on the grid, all running in different classes as well. So we'll try and keep you abreast of who's doing what in the various classes once we get into the race. I'll start running through the grid now, though, because it might take some time to get all the way through to the bottom of it. It's Dave Cockle that took the pole position after the qualifying session earlier on this morning by 4.3 seconds, which is a mammoth margin. Dave is in his very rapid Ford Escort Cosworth that he's been racing in for many a year now. Number 95 races a lot, I think, in some of the southeastern Tin Tops series and such like. So he's on pole position with Wayne Crabtree even, due to be alongside him. Wayne is in one of my personal favourite cars, which is the Ford RS200, and it's got an insane body kit on that car. It looks almost like the kind of car that would compete at the Pikes Peak hill climb or something like that. Wayne Crabtree, it makes a good sound as well. That RS200 lines up alongside Dave Cockle on the front row. Then we've got a Capri with Simon Light in third position, but it's a Capri like no other. Again, it's gone through some fairly serious modifications. As the title of this championship would suggest, this is after all not the Ford Production Series, it's the Ford Modified Series. So these cars heavily modified, which has seen a significant increase in performance for one or two of them. That Capri certainly very rapid. It was only 6/10 slower than Wayne Crabtree's RS200 actually in qualifying. Fourth on the grid will be the first of many Ford Escort Mark IIs. That is the 27 example of Pantelis Christoforou. He leads, or is the pole position sitter, in Class B1, and alongside him, or just behind him on the grid I should say, fifth on the grid, will be Piers Grange in another Mark II Escort. He's second in that same class. Alongside Piers on row number 3 will be number 3, that's Ashley Shelswell in the Ford Sierra XR4i, which is the white number 87. Another different shape and size of car there up towards the front of the grid. We've got Escort Cosworths, RS200s, Capris, Escort Mark IIs, and now a Sierra. Then we've got a Ford Escort RS2000 of Paul Neville that lines up on row 4 with another Mark II of number 101 Malcolm Harding, both of them running in Class B1. Running out the top 10 then, number 87 David Matthias in a Ford Sapphire Cosworth, and Neil Jessup in his Mark II Ford Escort, but that's a less modified one than the likes of Malcolm Harding, for example, and Piers Grange and Pantelis Christoforou, because that car is running in Class B. It's actually the pole sitter in Class B is Neil Jessup. Just behind him, Rory Jose in the Ford Focus ST, bringing things a little bit more up to date. And alongside him on row number 6 is Ollie Allen in the number 17 Ford Fiesta Mark III, which is the much more recognisable shape of Ford Escort from probably about 10 years ago now. Row number 7 is headed by one of 4 invitational class cars. Tim Foxlow in his Ford Escort RSR. Wayne Crabtree, by the way, who lines up on the front row, is also in the invitational class. Alongside Tim Foxlow on the 7th row is Tony Paxman in his Class B Ford Escort Mark I, one of the oldest cars on the grid. And then on the 8th row of the grid, we've got number 70 Terry Davis in his Mark II Escort, and Malcolm Wise, another regular down at Brands Hatch and Snetterton, in the number 28 Ford Escort Cosworth. Now, he was one of a few drivers that had lap times disallowed in qualifying, though, for exceeding track limits. You'd expect Malcolm usually to be a little bit further up the order in his yellow and white Ford Escort Cosworth, so expect him to move forward in the race. Brian Lilly lines up on the 9th row alongside Alex Boehm. That's Ford Sierra Cosworth alongside a Ford Fiesta. Nigel Craig is on the 10th row of the grid in an Escort Mark II, and Aaron Tucker in a Ford Sierra 2 litre, running in Class B, rounds out the top 20. 21st on the grid then for number 16 Chris Baker, Ford Escort LRS Mark III, and John Edwards Parton in a Ford Fiesta XR2 is 22nd on the grid. Mark Hadfield in his Ford Puma, a couple of Ford Pumas out there on the grid actually, running in Class C. He has got Darren Owen in his Escort RSR Mark I for company. Darren Owen, another one of those invitational class runners. David Gadd is 25th on the grid in an Escort Mark 1, and then the Ford ST150 of Tim Sandu is alongside him on the 13th, row car number 12. Row 14 for number 94, Mac McCarthy, Dr. Evil as he's affectionately known, I believe, in his Ford Fiesta ST150, making a return to racing again these days, Matt McCarthy, and alongside him Kevin Hadfield in the another one of those Ford Pumas. Then you've got Andy Pipe in the number 38 Ford Escort Mark 1 and Dominic Ryan in a Fiesta Mark 6, which I think I'm right in saying is, let me just check I'm looking at the right one, that will be yeah, one of the even newer Ford Fiesta shapes, the 127 car, although I don't think he is on the grid, unfortunately. I know there was a red flag in qualifying, and I wonder whether maybe he was the cause of that red flag, because I can't actually see that car on the grid, unfortunately. Then we have Jimmy Neophytou in his Ford Fiesta Mark 1 Crossflow, number 24, who is there towards the back of the grid, with Daniel Cowan in a Fiesta ST150 again on that row with him. That's the 16th row of the grid. Jack Gadd in a Ford Escort RSR is next, ahead of Dave Barrett in a Fiesta Zetec S, and then the Escort Mark 1 of Chris Dancer should be at the back of the grid, but I think there are one or two possibly missing from this one. Going to be a rolling start by the way, as well for this Ford Modified Series race, just because some of these cars are not designed really to be launching off the line from a standing start. So rolling start for the two 15-minute races of the Ford Modified Series. What a tremendous sight they make, though. I mean, some truly iconic cars there, and one or two that I think have some pretty interesting racing backgrounds. One I'm particularly interested to learn about is the number 71 of Brian Lilly, his Class A Ford Sierra Cosworth, which is liveried up like an old Dick Johnson Racing Australian touring car. There, it just goes through shot there, the red and yellow shell liveried car. It's got a 2E's 1000 sticker above the number as well. The 2E's 1000, of course, which used to be the title of the famous Bathurst 1000 race over in Australia. So I wonder if that is an ex-DJR Group A touring car. That would be quite impressive. And if it's not, it is an immaculate copy of a Group A touring car with livery that is, I'd say, absolutely identical to the one that would have run in period. So the cars then make their way out of Redgate Corner and onto their green flag lap, which will then turn into the start of the race, essentially, with the rolling start. And one of the things I love about multi-class racing is that you do get a lot of mixing of those classes. We've got a Class A car on pole in Dave Cockle, then you've got the Invitational Ford RS200 of Wayne Crabtree. The Class B1 cars aren't that far back. Pantelis Christoforou and Piers Grange 4th and 5th on the grid. And all of those different classes of cars will excel in different parts of the circuit, basically. Some of them will be quicker in a straight line, some will be quicker through the corners, some better on the brakes, some will accelerate more quickly. And that generates usually pretty lively racing as they try to establish their position in the line in the early stages. There is the 25 car, by the way, just got a glimpse of that at the back, so that is the car that was not able to get out in qualifying, but Jamie Goff has completed a few laps behind the runyourfleet.com safety car, and so they've been able to stick him onto the back of the grid. The rule is that you have to have completed a certain number of laps of the track before you're allowed to race, and if you can't do that in qualifying, they'll allow you to qualify out of session. So they've got him out just before the race gets underway. Sort of a brilliant, so one of the old Zach Speed Capris going through, I think it was, wasn't it, midfield there. Example of some truly iconic machinery out on track, but they're all about to do battle now for 15 minutes of racing around the Donington Park National circuit. Beautiful conditions now, picture perfect really. Bit of cloud around, but it's still nice and sunny. The temperature's starting to climb. Even the wind has maybe died down a little bit now compared to what it was this morning. Pace car pulls in to the pit lane, then here we go. It's Dave Cockle and Wayne Crabtree on the front row of the grid, ready for what's about to be a very spectacular and a very noisy start to the race, I'd imagine. They look towards the light in gantry. When the red lights go out, they'll be away in racing. That happens now. The thunder roars as they head towards Redgate Corner, and it's a good start made by Wayne Crabtree from the outside of row number 1, but Dave Cockle is trying to hang on in there on the inside line. There's a bit of a squeeze there from Cockle as he turns into turn number 1 first, and Cockle, did he manage to make that stick? I'm not sure. They're still side by outside of Cockle, it's sideways actually, as he got a bit too aggressive on the power. One or two of them there running into that sort of a problem as they come out of the turn number 1. Some of these very powerful rear-wheel drive cars must be quite lively on cold tyres. So that means that Cockle holds the lead, Crabtree second, third then is the Capri of Simon Light. Stayed in grid order for the top 3. Malcolm Wise comes through there in his yellow Ford Escort Cosworth. They are all thankfully cleanly through the first sequence of corners. There's one of those Pumas. Again, even that is nothing like a road-going Puma. Mark Hadfield, that is, in one of the front-running Class C cars as they work their way up to the top of the hill. Ashley Shelswell there in the Sierra XR4i is on the tail immediately of number 56, Piers Grange. They started 5th and 6th. They're still in those positions as they work their way down the exhibition straight. So into the chicane for the first time then. Dave Cockle, who was 4.3 seconds quicker than anybody else in qualifying, which is why I think Wayne Crabtree was so aggressive going into the first corner, trying to give him the big squeeze as they turned in, because he knows that if he can't get ahead of Cockle in the early stages here, it's going to be very hard to do so later on. And already as they cross the line at the end of lap number 1, it's 1.6 second cushion between Cockle in the lead and Crabtree in second. He too is getting away from Simon Light in third, who was under pressure there from the 101, which is Malcolm Harding, who started 8th on the grid. And Harding was going for third then as they went into Redgate corner. I'm not sure whether he made that stick, but he was certainly fully alongside as they went through the right-hander and worked their way down the straight. Got a car coming into the pit lane, I'm afraid, further back. That is the number 2 Fiesta XR2 of John Edwards Palm, unfortunately, with its funky-looking jigsaw livery. Unfortunately, he's pulling into the pit lane very slowly, so early issues for him, but no issues at all for Dave Cockle once he survived that big squeeze by Wayne Crabtree into Redgate corner. He has started to get away. This battle's still raging for 5th. Piers Grange with Ashley Shelswell right on his tail. And, as we've said, multiple classes at play here. So Shelswell is a Class A car, so he's in the same class in theory as Dave Cockle, the race leader. Whereas Piers Grange ahead of him is one of the front-running Class B1 cars. There is Cockle, the leader, coming out of the chicane. Crabtree a bit lonely in second place now in that stunning Ford RS200. Dave Cockle, unsurprisingly, setting the pace here with a new fastest lap of 1 minute 13.9. He's about 2.2 seconds off his pole position time, though, so there's more pace to be had out of that Escort Cosworth, I think. Third position then for Simon Light, still 4th place for Malcolm Harding. And then you've got that Grange and Shelswell battle, and then behind them, number 87 there drives up the inside, and that is David Matthias and his Sapphire Cosworth gaining a place at the expense of the 33 of Paul Neville in his Escort RS2000. So, well, again, got the place. Oh, yeah, sorry, no, he does hold on to the place. We've got 2 Escorts battling with 2 Sierras here, and the Sierras now about to find themselves the meat in that Escort sandwich as they drop through the old hairpin. In the other classes, as I said, there are lots of them out there. In Class A, it is Cockle that leads the way. Crabtree, who is second overall, leads the Invitational class. Harding, moving up to 4th place, means that he's taken over the Class B1 lead as this battle continues to rage up to the top of the hill. And in fact, the Sierras now side by side. Up the inside goes the number 3 of Ashley Shelswell, defending that position from David Matthias. Matthias started a few places behind him, but he's really got back onto his tail, and these two are fighting for Class A position. This is the fight for 3rd in class as they work their way down towards the chicane once again. Just to finish going through those classes, Class B being led at the moment by number 83 Neil Jessup. He was on pole position in his Ford Escort Mark II, and Class C being led by the 124 car a bit further down the order. That's Alex Bohm in the Ford Fiesta. So, race getting underway pretty energetically here, certainly amongst some of these midfielders, and another challenge on the inside there. Piers Grange, I think, about to finally lose that place now, isn't he, to Shelswell. They're still side by side coming off the corner, but Shelswell's got the inside line through Hollywood, and I think he will now move the Sierra through. Yes, he does, so he moves into 5th position. This Scott Woodwiss is turning into rather a tasty battle.
It really is. It's a fantastic spectacle to watch the 30-plus cars. That's not such a great spectacle, though. That's one of the Fiestas off in the gravel track. That's number 13, Dave Barrett in his Fiesta. I think it's a Mark V, I think, so that's off on the exit of McLean's. He might be in trouble. There's someone who's a stalwart of that particular car, Malcolm Wise, and his distinctive white and yellow Ford Escort Cosworth with the WRC style body kit on it. There goes Piers Grange up the inside of the 87 of Matthias. That was interesting because he did that possibly just as he was going into the yellow flag zone. So that's intriguing. Whether he had his nose in front just as they went into it, I think that might be a bone of contention unless he was clearly in front. But even so, Paul Neville getting into the mix, and also is the 27 car, and that is another Escort in the mix. That is of 27. It's Christoforu.
Oh yeah, Matthias Christopherou, yeah. So 4th place on the grid
yes.
here, wasn't it? Yeah, I hadn't spotted that he dropped down the order so much, actually. Number 12 in the pit lane, by the way, as well. We've got a few coming in with dramas in the early stages here.
Yeah, number 12 is Tim Sandu in that rather distinctive, hard-to-miss fluorescent pink Ford Focus. That's the Mark II generation Ford Focus that's certainly making itself seen, but maybe not heard as well as it might like to be. Also, we've got a Fiesta ST150 in the pit lane. I think that's the 113, I think, of...
yeah, all the way
Jose.
round. So 113 is Roy Jose. Yeah, sorry, you are right. Yeah, and then number 12 is Tim Sandu in the Ford Fiesta. So Jose is the Focus, and then Sandu is the Fiesta. If any of that made any sense, I'd be amazed. But at least that's the problem. We've got 35 Fords out there, and the models all tend to start with an F, of course, these days, don't they? Focus or Fiesta. It can get a bit confusing. That's my story anyway, and I'm sticking to it. Through Redgate goes this battle in the midfield, and as you can see, wherever you are, you've got someone to play with on this grid, but not long to play with them, because it's only a 15-minute race, this. If they've got to get a bit of a move on, and already some of the race leaders are getting embroiled in the back markers now. Wayne Crabtree, I can see, has just made his way past a group of the slower cars running in classes B and C further down the order. This, though, really is the race, isn't it? And Piers Grange has been in the thick of the action all race long. Ashley Shelswell has gone past him already, and now the other Sierra, the Sapphire Cosworth, sorry, I should say, David Matthias is trying to get through into Redgate corner. They've got company behind, haven't they, as well, from the number 27, which is Matthias Christopherou, who is a bit out of position after that slow start. Out of the corner, the Sapphire had the better traction through the turn, but the Escort has the power coming off. This is what I was saying pre-race, Scott. When you've got such a wide variety of car out there, yes, they all run under the blue oval banner, but such great variety of performance, it does create this fascinating racing whereby some of the cars have more power, some of them are better through the corners, and that always generates excitement.
It does, and multi-class racing is always a fantastic spectacle, whether it's endurance racing or sprint. Particularly when it's a sprint, you get so much action in such a short space of time, and you do get some cars that you don't normally expect to match up against each other, even different classes. You see here that the fantastic battle between the number 24 Fiesta of Neophyto, and he's having a battle there with the number, I think, 94 car of which is the 94 Class B Escort of McCarthy's that come down the back straight. And this battle that's going on here is the scrap that's for 4th and 5th overall, and this is also the B1 class leader and the 3rd place man in the Class A. So good scraps amongst these two as they come through. Also watch out one the way past a rather scared Ford Puma. That's number 21, which is the car of, there's 2 Ford Pumas, both driven by Hadfield, which is helpful. Mark Hadfield. The other one, of course, which is Kevin Hadfield, and that's the one with the more extreme body kit on it. So he started quite further back. So plenty of lappery going on here between some of the perceivably slower cars. That's actually number 15 that he's battling, where we was at 15 car, which is the Escort of Dancer. So he's having a slightly not as good race as he was anticipating, but he's back down, as I can see, in 29th position. So all sorts going on, lots of multi-class battles going on, whilst other classes are being lapped by faster cars. So plenty going on and plenty to talk about.
Yes, and now in theory the quicker cars that are doing lapping have a bit more power, so they shouldn't be having too much of a difficulty getting past the slower runners. But of course, if they catch them through the corners, it's all of a sudden not quite as easy for them to go through, and that's what Piers Grange found there. He caught that group going through the crane of curves. Oh, big spin, and that's from 3rd place. That is Simon Light with a huge moment at Coppice. Don't tell me he's going to save that and hang on to 3rd position. Surely he's lost at least 1 place as a result. The magnificent Ford Capri S with a huge cloud of dust kicked up. That was remarkable car control.
Well, he's about to lose 3rd if he's not careful, because here comes Malcolm Harding and also the Shellswell Sierra, and they both head round the outside. So whether that's just him staying out of the way because he might have possibly damaged something, I'm not sure. But it's now the Escort up into 3rd place, the Sierra up to 4th, and Light now manages to get himself back up to speed now. He's trying to shake, I think, some of the gravel or dust that was in there. We'll just weave the car around to make sure it's all as straight and proper as it should be. Now a change for 3rd now, as Shellswell does make a dive up the inside of that beautiful Malcolm Harding Escort, and up into 3rd place he goes. So within that space of a few corners, we've had basically three different people in 3rd place.
Yeah, dramatic stuff there, and I think it might take Simon Light the best part of a lap just to catch his breath after that, because that took some saving. I don't know how he got there, whether he tripped over a back marker or something, but did a really, really good job to hang on to it. So Dave Cockle now then has a 5.8 second lead over Wayne Crabtree, who is now, well, nearly 20 seconds. If I know he's 22 seconds, isn't he, ahead of Harding in third. What have we spotted?
Number 71, the Dick Johnson-esque looking Sierra, which has been driven by Lilly. Looks like he had quite a bit of a wiggle exiting the final chicane, but he managed to keep it in the straight line. So probably driving it not unlike how Dick Johnson used to drive his. What have we spotted?
I think the leader's slowing. Dave Cockle. Is that Cockle?
It looks like it.
It is, isn't it? He's lost the lead to Wayne Crabtree.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Dave Cockle's slowing down. Good spot it.
Well, so we need to try and pick that up. They're going down through the crane of curves now. We've had a change of lead because there is an issue for Dave Cockle. I don't know whether he'd been off and was just recovering or whether he's down on pace, but there is Wayne Crabtree there. He has the race lead, and somewhere behind him, going slowly, is Dave Cockle, we think, who was running away with this, 4 seconds quicker than anyone in qualifying earlier on this morning, and now it looks as though he's given the lead away. We'll see if we can hang on until he appears, but it might be some wait now because he was going quite slowly. And, well, let's see. Wayne Crabtree, though, I'm not going to be disappointed if that RS200 wins the race. I'm going to be honest with you, Scott, because it's probably my favourite car out there, although there are several candidates actually for that honour. But that is a stunning-looking car. I don't know what the history of that car is, but it's a very welcome addition to the grid.
It is. I have to admit, being a Group B fan myself, I have to admit that's probably my favourite as well in some cases. And the fun thing is, it hasn't got a Ford engine in it. It's got a 2. If you hear that he's on the cameras, or he sounds like a bit of a V8, but it's not. It's actually a 2-litre Boxer Subaru engine in the back of the car. So it's not a Ford V8. It actually rumbles past us. It always doesn't sound like a WRX in many cases. It's probably got a more extreme exhaust system on it, but that is a wonderful looking car. It looks like it belongs to either Pikes Peak or in the old school IMS GTO class in some cases, but in fact there was a Ford RS200 that did IMS GTO back in the day. It's quite rare. There's only about a couple of them that were ever made, but fantastic looking machine. Now then, this is a scrap that's going on forward. It's now third place again because Shelswell has now moved up into what looks like second place, although let's just confirm that as he comes across the line, because Cockle probably wouldn't have come through. No, he hasn't. So sadly we've lost Dave Cockle, which is unfortunate. So now it means that Shelswell is into second place. Harding now into, well, he was third, but again, the fourth or fifth change in about 4 or 5 laps, 2 laps. Another car that's slow, and that's the Kevin Hadfield Puma's also going slowly on the pit straight. So 1 or 2 car sitting issues, including our erstwhile race leader up to a few moments ago, Dave Cockell. I think he's in the pit lane and rather crawling rather slower than he'd like to be, unfortunately, Andy.
Yes, that's a sorry sight. He races that car quite a lot down south, I seem to recall. He and Malcolm Wise, I think, are regulars down at Brands Hatch and Snetterton, aren't they, in some of the southeastern series. So the car, it's always struck me as very highly strung, that car, though, and it does sometimes run into mechanical dramas. But thankfully, not the case for these two, because we're rather enjoying this fight for third. Simon Light trying to get himself back on the podium now, and if he's going to do that, he needs to try and find a way past the 101 of Malcolm Harding, who started this race 8th, but in traffic he gets held up, runs out wide, and Simon Light goes up the inside. Needed no second invitation. Now Simon's got 2 minutes left to try and catch and pass Ashley Shelswell, who at the start of the lap was about 2.7 seconds ahead of these two, although actually, first of all, he's got to fend off a resurgent Malcolm Harding there, who was trying to get back up the inside through the chicane. Again, the Capri has more power, but the Escort may be a bit more nimble through the corners. Across the line they go then, probably 2 laps left in the race, and the gap between Light in second and Shelswell in third has got up to nearly 5 seconds.
Yeah, so it looks as though at least at the moment it's pretty secure. Paul Neville's going on the attack of the 27 of Christopher Fiery. Just a little bit of a small slide of oversteer on the exit, but Paul manages to pick up another place and goes up into 6th position. And so both quite ahead of although Piers Grange is ahead of them both. They've got the Dave Matthias Sierra Sapphire not too far with. In fact, this could be quite an interesting battle for position here, because you've now got 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th now most to tail, so it's a couple of cars all in the mix together. Meanwhile, Wayne Crabtree just winds his way. I thought he was going quite carefully to the final chicane. I thought for a second he was hitting trouble, but just keeping nice and steady now. He's in quite a lead. Across the line he goes, and this will be the last lap of the race, so I'm going to have to disappear for the final lap. But yeah, it looks as though, at least on paper at least, for the moment, unless I'm about to put the curse on it, that Wayne Crabtree, and right now, looks as though he's on course to pick up a fairly decent and fairly substantial win over the rest of the field in that beautiful RS200.
Yeah, he's certainly done everything right so far, and although it will be a lucky win, it's still a win, and he's in an invitational class car anyway, so I don't know whether he's going to be here for the full season, but a great addition to the grid is the RS200, and it does look as though it's going to take the victory. It's only half a lap now away from taking that checkered flag in this, our final race before the lunch break from Donington Park. So Wayne Crabtree then with the advantage. He's going to win it by nearly 30 seconds. seconds, maybe just over 30 seconds potentially, by the time he gets to the line. Through Coppice Corner he goes, out onto the exhibition straight. This isn't the only multi-class race we've got here today either. We've got the Aston Martin Owners Club here with their GT, GT4 and Intermark series, which will have a race later on this afternoon. But for now, it's all about the blue oval, and it's all really about Wayne Crabtree in his beautiful Ford RS200, which comes out of the final chicane. It sees the checkered flag, and it wins the opening race of the day for the Ford Modified Series here at Donington Park. Into the pit lane, you can see in the background is limping the number 21 Ford Puma of Mark Hadfield, so sadly both of the Hadfields had a couple of dramas in that one. Now, second place, is it going to be Shelswell or is it going to be Simon Light? The gap came down by about a second a lap ago, but I don't think Simon Light's quite going to have time to get there. Here they come into the chicane. Yeah, there's a bit of back markers between them. It's the white car there with the blue back of Shelswell that goes through in second. There is the Capri of Simon Light in third. So it's going to be Shelswell second. Third is going to go to Simon Light in the Capri, and that means they're, and of course they were fighting for the class victories. That was a battle of extra significance because it wasn't just for the second place overall, but also for class honours. Malcolm Wise there diving up the inside, trying to gain one more position. I think that was before the end, number 96 that was that he went up the inside of. And was that for position, Malcolm Wise? No, it wasn't actually. He was lapping the 96 car, which was Nigel Craig in his Mark II Ford Escort. So Crabtree takes the victory in the Invitational class. Then Shelswell wins in Class A. Malcolm Harding, after that brilliant start, held on to fourth place overall and took the Class B1 honours with it. It was quite close in B1 actually, because he was only 3 seconds ahead of Piers Grange, who was only 2.5 seconds ahead of Pantelis Christoforou in 6th position overall, 4th, 5th and 6th, the top three in Class B1. Then in Class B, it was number 83 Neil Jessup that won in his Ford Escort Mark II, and in Class C it was the 1-2-4 of Alex Boehm in his Ford Fiesta Victorious. And I think that was it for Class Victors. We lost a handful of them to the pit lane over the course of the race, but it was still a magnificent spectacle, and we get to do it all again this afternoon. At about 6 o'clock this afternoon, the Ford Modified Series will have their second race of the weekend. Results then of our first Ford Modified Series race of the weekend. Wayne Crabtree with the win and wins in class as well. Class A is won by Ashley Shelswell in second with Simon Light third. Malcolm Harding wins in B1 in fourth position with Piers Grange fifth. Pantelis Christoforou is sixth. David Matthias seventh ahead of Paul Neville. Then it was Malcolm Wise and Neil Jessup. Then Terry Davis, Tim Foxlow, Tony Paxman, Darren Owen, Brian Lilly to round out the top 15. Brian Tucker was next with Alex Boehm winning in Class C. David Gadd was 18th, Nigel Craig 19th and Andy Pipe rounding out the top 20. Then it was Matt McCarthy, Chris Baker, Jamie Goff I don't think was running at the end, but Mark Hadfield was technically, although he was in the pit lane. I think when he took the checkered flag, Kevin Hadfield was next ahead of Daniel Cowan. Jimmy Neophytou, Dave Barrett was next, and then we know that Dave Cockle retired to the pit lane, so did a number of others. Chris Dancer, Rory Jones, Tim Sandu, and John Edwards-Parton was in very, very early indeed. So shame that we lost a few of them, but the ones that we did have out there on track were putting on a heck of a show, and they will do so again a little bit later on today. Ford Modified Series is out now for its second race of the day. A massive grid of cars, although we might be missing one or two after a few dropped by the wayside earlier on this morning. But that first race was won eventually by Wayne Crabtree, although it was dominated by Dave Cockle in his Ford Escort Cosworth, which unfortunately slowed and ran into some sort of mechanical issues midway through the race. So Wayne Crabtree took that awesome Ford RS200 to the race victory. As a result then, he lines up on pole for this one with Ashley Shelswell alongside him. There, by the way, is the number 95 of Dave Cockle. So he is out on the grid, but he'll have to start from the back, or towards the back anyway, as we had 26 finishers, so all of the non-finishers start behind them. So Crabtree on pole with Ashley Shelswell alongside. Simon Light and Malcolm Harding make up row 2, ahead of Piers Grange and Pantelis Christoforou, who had a great battle in the earlier race. David Matthias is 7th alongside Paul Neville, whilst Malcolm Wise and Neil Jessup round out the top 10. Terry Davis and Tim Foxlow are on the 6th row, with Tony Paxman and Darren Owen next. Then it's Aaron Tucker and Alex Boehm, with Nigel Craig, Andy Pipe, Mac McCarthy and Chris Baker rounding out the top 20. Then you've got Kevin Hadfield, Daniel Cowan, Jimmy Neophytou and Dave Barrett on the 12th row. Jamie Goff was on the 13th row, and then you start getting into some of those non-finishers from earlier on. Well, Mark Hadfield was a finisher, but then Dave Cockle Ollie Allen, Chris Dancer, Rory Jose, Tim Sandu, John Edwards-Parton and Jack Gadd were all non-finishers. So some of them will be out there on the grid. We know Dave Cockle is, but there might be one or two others that don't make it to the start of this one. So the runyourfleet.com pace car moves its way through the final chicane then. The sun is really shining down now on the Donington Park National Circuit as our penultimate race of the weekend is about to get underway. The Ford Modified Series. Wayne Crabtree on the left. The Ford Sierra of Ashley Shelswell to the right-hand side of shot. Across the line they go. The red lights go out. We're away and racing, and there's nothing stopping Wayne Crabtree getting into Redgate corner first this time. Had a real fight on his hands against Dave Cockle in the previous race, a fight that he lost actually into turn one, but he leads them this time around. Lots of different lines being taken. Someone getting the hip and shoulder there. One of the escorts getting eased a bit wide as they went out of Redgate and head down the hill then for the first time. And a challenge for second. That looks like, is that... no, it's not Piers Grange. I think it's Simon Light. No, it's not Simon Light. Malcolm Harding get there in the end, who I think has moved into second position. So Malcolm Harding then in his Escort Mark II, moving up into P2. Where is Dave Cockle? I was trying to pick him out in the back of the pack, although he's probably already inside the top 20, I'd imagine. We know that Escort is very, very quick. It was just a bit fragile in the earlier race. Keep an eye to fourth position as well, because Simon Light in that Ford Capri arguably should have finished second in the earlier race, but he had a big, big moment at this corner, Coppice, where he ran wide into the gravel, almost lost control, managed to save it, but lost a few positions that he was never really able to reclaim throughout the rest of the race. But the point is, we know that he's quicker than his current fourth place would suggest. Crabtree then leads them into the chicane, and he's got some company here, hasn't he? Because Malcolm Harding is chasing after him, and actually Malcolm gets a good exit from the chicane. Crabtree, though, just opens the afterburners, and off he disappears into the distance, into Redgate. He will lead the first lap then. It's Harding second. It is Shelswell in third position, with Simon Light in fourth. Piers Grange is fifth ahead of the 87 car, which is next up. That's actually David Matthias. What's happened to Christophery? He's down to seventh. Looking further down the order for Dave Cockle then, the number 95 car is Dave Cockle, 15th place. Wow, 11 places gained on the first lap for Dave Cockle. So see if we can, there he is, coming into shot now. I think the last car in this group, the silver car, dives up the inside, and that's going to be 12th position gained and probably a 13th before too much longer. So Dave Cockle for the top 10 is an almost certainty. How far up the top 10 he can get, though, awaits to be seen. More battling going on further back here into the old hairpin, but the race leaders are up at Coppice corner, and now the gap is maybe starting to creep up. So Wayne Crabtree, understandably, because I'd imagine that car is quite a handful on cold tyres, just taking a lap or so to warm himself up, and now he is starting to show the pace that he had in the earlier race. He leads the field down into the chicane. At the end of the opening lap, he was just 3/10 ahead of Malcolm Harding. This time I think it will be a bit more. The real battle that's developing is for second place. Harding under a lot of pressure now from Ashley Shelswell, and Shelswell is alongside and in fact ahead as they cross the start-finish line. So Shelswell moves into second with Harding down to third, although Harding is very, very late on the brakes and goes back up the inside. Fantastic move that. He can't quite get the car stopped though, so Shelswell comes back at him on the exit of the corner, and look at Simon Light in the Capri looking to well and truly make this a three-way fight now. So you've got Sierra ahead of Escort, ahead of Capri, and not far behind this group actually now is the charging Dave Cockle, who just set the fastest lap of the race. 1:15.9 was about 2/10 quicker than the leader, but when you consider the traffic that he's in, look, he's making another move now into the old hairpin. That will be for no, 10th. I think he's already got past Malcolm Wise on this lap, so that's 10th position now for Dave Cockle, and he's the fastest car on track basically. So only a 15-minute race this though. Will he have the time to challenge for a top 5 overall? He's got the speed, but 15 minutes, well 11.5 minutes as we have left now, is going to make that a bit of a tall order. Second place battle then off Coppice corner, and actually it's the third place that could change here. Simon Light up the inside of Malcolm Harding as they went down the exhibition straight. The leader turns into the chicane. Second is Shelswell. Third will be the Capri. So Simon Light then into third place now, ahead of Malcolm Harding, who was really on his toes at the start of the race, as in fact he was in the earlier race. I seem to recall he gained quite a few places from his starting position in race number 1, because, just trying to remind myself where he started that one. Malcolm Harding, yeah, started 8th, and he was up into about 4th, I think, by the end of lap 1 earlier on this morning as well. So Malcolm Harding, good at the start, but maybe now the true pace of that car starting to show, and he slips down into 4th place. So Wayne Crabtree leads the way then. Ashley Shelswell in second. Third place, Simon Light. Fourth is Malcolm Harding. Fifth for Piers Grange. That's the car that's just gone through shot. Sixth place then for Pantelis Christoforou, who got himself back ahead of David Matthias on the previous lap. And Scott Woodwiss, this has been another very entertaining start to the race. It's a great grid of cars, but it's really nice to see that the racing is of as high a quality as the cars that are actually out on track.
Absolutely, there's some fantastically prepared machines in here, all of course being Ford models, and it's wonderful to see the standard that's been put together with these cars, and it's cars that maybe don't collectively exclusively race this championship, that kind of pop in and kind of do that. And I know they've got some 70 drivers registered for across the season in terms of drivers that want to come in. Of course, we've got about 30, well, we've got 28 of them starting in this race in particular. But of course, I know they've got enough cars to fill essentially 2 grids, which is quite sensational. And I'm sure that we'll see more and more different cars coming through. Now, for the leads I'm watching on the pit straight, Dave Cockhill is already coming up to possibly challenge him a top 5. Coming across the line, he is now into 5th place, and he keeps on pumping it fast. He's actually did a 1 minute 12.809. Compared to the leader, he's a full 3.6 seconds quicker than Wayne Crabtree. So either Wayne's possibly just thinking it might be one of the easier races he's had, but of course, once he sees that silver Escort on his mirrors, he might want to put his foot down a bit more.
Well, I thought I was going out on a limb to say that he might get a top 5, but now I think anything other than a Dave Cockhill victory in this race is going to be a shock, isn't it? Because he's now going up the inside of Malcolm Harding, so that's 4th place now, the old hairpin. I noticed that Simon Light is ahead of Ashley Shelswell as well, so the Capri is now ahead of the Sierra for 2nd, except that's now down to 4th for the Sierra because Dave Cockhill whistles past him on the run up the hill. Yes, I know that the car is clearly quicker than those around it, but, you know, Dave is still driving it well, and, you know, just having a quick car is one thing. You've still got to be able to pedal it quickly enough. And, yeah, Dave Cockhill's pedaling it quite quickly, isn't he?
Yeah, and some. He's absolutely going for it. The fact he's lapping at least, what, 3.6 to 4 seconds quicker than all the cars in front of him. It's no wonder he's blasting past him as if he's on easy mode in the video game. It's incredible. He's already onto the tail of the Simon Light Capri, and I'm sure he'll get him on the pit straight as it's happening in front of us right now. Yeah, it is, but so he's down to 2nd place already. And you have to bear in mind, Wayne Crabtree, he's only just going into Redgate Corner now, so that is essentially the gap now he's got to try and close in is 4.9 seconds. And considering the fact that he was, what's that, 2.6 seconds quicker on that, that suggests I think he might well manage that. And also the fact that Wayne Crabtree set a personal best in that 1:15, thinks, oh crikey, I better get on with this now, because he realises that Dave Cockhill probably is charging up behind him, and so it is going to be a battle between RS200 and the Escort. There it is already, that it's already down towards the old hairpin, and he's running that gap in of what was 4.9 seconds pretty quickly. So also Simon Light's getting away in 3rd place in the Capri, so it may well be just a bit of a more of a strong out race than we had towards the Wayne Crabtree with a big moment heading into McLean. So he's just feeling the pressure, or just simply just not really getting as much heat to the tyres as he would have done in the first couple of laps. But yeah, Dave Cockhill, I think probably is causing Wayne Crabtree to hear the jaws meeting, I think, because you can certainly see him coming in his rearview mirrors. And I think it won't be long before he's right on his tail and challenging for the lead. And I think given the fact that he started pretty much towards the back of the grid, I think even though it's quite a quick car, not many people would have originally said that he'd be able to make it that quickly up towards the front. But we've been proven wrong in the past, and he's proving it wrong again. Yeah, that little mistake there for Crabtree, I think, was simply because he could see Cockhill coming, and there's just going to be no defence from this, is there? But, of course, Dave led the bulk of race 1 and then broke down, so that will be a little niggling doubt in the back of his mind, I'm sure. Some of the midfield, or actually tail-end battles really here, coming through Starkey's response curve. You've got the little Ford Fiesta there going through, which I think is the ST150 of Daniel Cowan. There are a couple of Fiestas out there. I think number on it, we had Daniel Cowan, I think, running towards the tail end of the field, but because of the multi-class system out there, you'll always have someone to race against, and 96 is an example of that. Nigel Craig running in the B1 category, so that's the same class as, in theory, Malcolm Harding, Piers Grange, and Pantelis Christoforou towards the very front of the field. But obviously some of the drivers maybe a little bit more experienced than others are able to get a little bit more pace out of their cars, and that all got a bit clumsy through the Robert chicane there, didn't it? Wayne Crabtree then led the previous lap by 1.6 seconds. I'd be amazed if he's still leading at the end of this, the 7th lap. We're not seeing him on the screen, but I'm fairly sure that Wayne Crabtree will have lost the lead by the time they next come into our sight. That 3-wide battle into Redgate resolves itself, and actually it's nose to tail
for the race lead as they go out of the final corner. So across the start-finish line, we have a battle on our hands now between Wayne Crabtree and Dave Cockle. Cockle has caught the RS200, but hasn't yet found a way through. They're, of course, going to start now really getting into some serious traffic. And in fact, I think as they went out of Redgate there might well have been the lead change. That is the 5th place car, isn't it? That is Malcolm Harding, who is just ahead of Piers Grange. But there, look, is Cockle. So he is in front now of Wayne Crabtree. Crabtree put up as much of a defence as he could there, Scott, but there was a real sense of inevitability about that.
And he started, what was it, back in 29th position on the grid?
Yeah.
29th to the lead in, what, 7 and a bit laps, which is pretty impressive by many standards. And Crabtree's taking that's quite a wide line through the famous corner. Usually people take that because they're struggling with something, but even so, when Crabtree had him right on his gearbox, he was foot to the floor trying to keep him away from making a move. But it was just the four-wheel drive traction and the push off the corner that Dave Cockle had in terms of the horsepower and torque underneath him in that Ford Escort Cosworth that just simply sent him flying past on the exit and, of course, into the leads. Of course, I think Wayne Crabtree has the advantage of maybe a bit more downforce on him, but just in terms of all-round setup and pace, Dave Cockle's got this car nailed, and he's, of course, been racing it for several years, so he knows it pretty much inside out, and certainly he's making the most of it. Lead gap is already 2.6 seconds, so Crabtree looks fairly secure in 2nd place for the time being. Simon Light's in a very comfortable 3rd place, so that actually Shellswell is trying to push on to catch him. And then behind for 5th place is now Piers Grange, and Piers Grange has got past Malcolm Harding. And now we've got Christopher with Dave Matthias on his gearbox. They come down towards Redgate. We're seeing the cars make their way through the Parade curves here. There's Wayne Crabtree in that beautiful RS200, which doesn't have a Ford engine. It has a 2-litre Subaru Boxer engine, so it sounds a bit like a Subaru World Rally car in some cases, but not that that's a bad thing at all, because it's certainly quite an extreme engine for an extreme machine. To come through, there is Dave Cockle trying to continue to extend his lead here. And I remember seeing that car, I think, almost 10 years ago when it was racing in the old BRCC Euro Sports Salute Sports Car series, and that was up against a few fairly extreme machines, some Subarus and some Evos, and even a Hayabusa-powered Suzuki Cappuccino, which was quite quick. But good to see that car back out racing on a BRCC race meeting. It's nice to have him back in the paddock. See here, scrap here 171 in one of our Sierras. That's Tucker ahead of the 96 with Craig, and all of them being lapped here by the rapid Dave Cockle with 3.5 minutes to go. And he looks as though, although we said this before in the first race, he's fairly comfortable at this point in time, but given what happened to the car in race 1, let's not count our chickens just yet, because it could still change as we get to the closing stages of this 2nd race of the modified Fords here at Donington.
Yeah, there's still a lot that can go wrong in this race, because mechanical issues are always a slight concern, so too the back markers. Wouldn't be a bad idea to check in maybe with Malcolm Harding, because I think he's just lost a position there to Piers Grange. That would have been 5th place going into Redgate Corner, so they'll be appearing at the top of the Crater Curves any moment. Now Wayne Crabtree at the bottom of the Crater Curves, though, he's getting himself into all sorts of trouble with a big moment there. I think he had to go offline to negotiate a back marker, and maybe picked up a bit of dirt on the tyres, and that car, even with all of its fancy aerodynamic bits and pieces and its big fat slick tyres, I don't think it has a huge amount of grip. Well, I think it has, let's rephrase that, I think it has way more power than it has grip, and as soon as he tries to get on the loud pedal with slightly dirty and overheating tyres, he finds that the car is a little bit twitchier than he'd like. But as he goes down the back straight, there, look, is the battle I wanted to see, and this is a real scrap now, because not only is it Malcolm Harding and Piers Grange, but you've also got the 27 car there trying to get at the inside line. That is Pantelis Christoforou, the red machine, and then right behind them is David Matthias in the Ford Sapphire Cosworth. So this is a 4-way scrap here for 5th position. Grange is into 5th place now, but he can't escape, can he?
He can't, and it's incredible to see a trio of very differently prepared Escort Mark IIs battling amongst themselves with that Ford Sierra Sapphire Cosworth in the mix. So it just shows it doesn't matter the generation. If the car's more sorted, it'll be just as quick as anything else. So good stuff between these four, and that's going to carry on going on for the next couple of laps as they head back down towards Redgate Corner. The order is Grange from Harding from Christopher, and then David Matthias watching on. It's also a nice battle going on between, I think, Paul Neville and one of the really beautiful looking Zach Speed Escorts in the mix. That's the black, orange, yellow and red car, just coming out of the Redgate towards the Crater Curves in a second. But that's Paul Neville, the man who kind of puts everything together for Modified Fords, running in 9th place ahead of the 83 car of Jessup, that being Neil Jessup, and it's one of 2 Zach Speed cars. There it is. And you can see here, slightly different looking car, of course. That's the RS2000 generation Mark II Escort, but it's a beautiful looking car. Another pretty well sorted car, this is one number 57 on the grid. This is the Escort Mark I, and that is of Escort Mark 1, and that is 57 if I can find it on the list. Can't quite find it on the entry list there for some reason, but unless I'm being completely blind. But that's the car of Paxman battling with number 8 of Owen. And also there is number 16, which is the Escort Mark 4 of Baker, which is one of the championship sponsors, which is the MTS Motorsport. But now heading down the hill, what I think should be the final lap of the race is Dave Cockell. I have to say, if you want an award for one of the drives of the day, it's certainly this one, from 29th on the grid to what looks to be an apparent race victory. Seriously impressive, and a seriously impressive car, and of course one that Dave knows inside out, and I think it would take nothing away. Wayne Crabtree certainly fought as hard as he could, but with the car with the pace of Dave Cockell's, he probably wasn't going to hold him back for long.
No, seriously impressive performance in a seriously impressive car, in a field full of seriously impressive cars, to be honest. The Ford Modified Series making its debut with the BRSCC this weekend is a welcome addition to the roster, that's for sure. There goes Tony Paxman in the 57 Mark 1 Ford Escort. He's just gone a lap down to Dave Cockell, the race leader. He makes his way down the exhibition straight, then into the chicane for what should be the final time. It will be touch and go. No, the time has now ticked down to 0, so Cockell comes through the chicane. Number 95 car then is going to win this time. It didn't win race number 1, but it does take the black and white checkered flag at the end of race number 2. Cockell takes the victory. Wayne Crabtree valiantly fought him off there for as long as he could, but second place was always likely to be as good as it would get for that magnificent RS200. In the background, look, we can see that almighty battle going on between Harding, Grange, Christopherou, and Matthias. Here they come, and that's Grange on the inside line. I think that's a back marker, actually, but that, importantly, is Piers Grange still ahead of Malcolm Harding. Now, what can Christopherou do at the line? Nothing. They're going to stay in the same order. So it's Piers Grange that comes through in 5th, Christopherou in 6th position. Now, hang on. Malcolm Harding... no, Harding lost some ground there, actually, off the last corner, so he must have had a bad exit from the final chicane, because the final order is Grange 5th, Christopherou 6th, Matthias 7th. Harding's been given a time penalty, that's what it is. 5-second time penalty for Malcolm Harding. There is no official message on the timing screen to tell us what that is, but I think we can all guess, can't we? That was probably for exceeding track limits. So, class winners, by the way. Cockell wins in Class A, Crabtree wins the Invitational class. Piers Grange, that battle he had with Pantelis Christopherou was of extra significance because it gave him the Class B1 victory. Then in Class B, it was the 83 of Neil Jessup that took the class victory. Class C, meanwhile, won by the 1-2-4 of Alex Bone. I think that's all of the classes, yes it is. So they are the class victors, and in a moment we'll be able to run through the full result of the entire grid. Don't go anywhere, one more race still to come here at Donington Park, the Nankang Tyre BRSCC City Car Cup. This is the result of our second Ford Modified Series race. Dave Cockell wins by nearly 9 seconds over Wayne Crabtree, class winners both of them. Simon Light was 3rd ahead of Ashley Shelswell in 4th, Piers Grange 5th. Pantelis Christopherou was 6th ahead of David Matthias, Malcolm Harding, Neil Jessup, Paul Neville, with Malcolm Wise solid 11th. Tim Fockler was 12th, Terry Davis was 13th, and then one lap down were Jamie Goff, Tony Paxman, Darren Owen, Chris Baker, Ollie Allen, Aaron Tucker, Nigel Craig in 20th position. 21st place went to Andy Pike. Alex Bohm won Class C in 22nd overall. Jack Gadd was 23rd. Jimmy Neophytou was 24th. Mac McCarthy 25th, ahead of Kevin Hadfield, Daniel Cowan and Dave Barrett, with Dave Cockell, unsurprisingly, taking the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 12.809, having started very deep in the field. Well, fantastic addition to the programme, the Ford Modified Series, or Modified Ford Series, I should say, here at Donington Park. And we look forward to having them back again on the BRSCC roster in the very near future. Reminder to those of you who have enjoyed the racing today, and there is still one more race to come, so don't go anywhere just yet, but those who have maybe tuned in today to watch the BRSCC live streaming for the first time, there's plenty more live streaming, a total of 17 events this year being streamed live for you, including, at the end of the year, the world-famous Formula Ford Festival at Brands Hatch. That's a must-see event towards the end of the year. But the rest of the events, I think all of the Caterham Motorsport Championship events are being live streamed this year. And next week at the Croft Circuit up in Yorkshire, up in the northeast of the country anyway, Darlington way specifically, is also being live streamed. That's our second live stream event of the season, and it's going to be a packed couple of days of racing there. You can tune in on the BRSCC Facebook and YouTube pages to see action from the Mazda MX-5 Championships. Both the Mark 1 and Mark 3 MX-5 Super Cup will be in action. The Nankang Tyre BMW Compact Cup will have another massive grid of drivers set to do battle around Croft. Fans of the Blue Oval should tune in as well, because not only are the BRSCC's Fiesta Junior and Fiesta Senior Championships in action, but also the STXR Challenge for fans of 80s Ford Fiestas and Escorts, as well as the BRSCC Club Sport Trophy, and brand new for 2021, the Mazda MX-5 Mark IV Trophy will be making its first competitive appearance. So this is next Saturday and Sunday at Croft. Do tune in on the BRSCC social media pages to see all of the action. So I don't think we're going to be able to actually have a word with our top 3 drivers from the modified Ford series, because they've all driven straight past our pit camera there and headed back into the paddock. So they're probably eager to get home. I think many of them are based down in the south of the country, so they've got a bit of a drive from Donington Park here in Derby, in the Midlands. But we are very grateful that they made the trip down here, up here I should say, for many of them, to race alongside us.